have a question. Do you think that babies,
including infants, toddlers, elementary school, and little kids in general,
should be baptized? Do you think it's necessary? I'm curious. I'm genuinely asking. What comes to mind is a specific Bible verse, and that would be Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. And that verse says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with the heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you tongue-tied. And it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. I pulled that up on Chat GPT just to, be a little bit more quick. But when I read this verse, or when I think about this verse, it makes me think, as the verse is saying, if you declare with your mouth and believe in your heart. And I know, as this channel is about, hearts of minds, that's what this whole channel is about. It's about the heart and the mind being synonymous and being one and the same. And if you pull up a Strong's Concordance, you will see when it's talking about the heart, it's talking about your thoughts. So hearts and minds are pretty much one and the same.
And because I love you guys so much, I actually took the time to pull it up for you. So here's Strong's Concordance. This is for the King James Version, but it translates the same. This is Romans chapter 10, verses 10, and it reads, "For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation." Now, if you see these letters and numbers in the parentheses, in the brackets, if you see where it says G2588, when you pull that up in the concordance, this is what you get. Now here we can see the transliteration from the Greek word is cardia, meaning like cardio, cardiac. But the definition is the heart that is figuratively the thoughts or feelings. In parentheses, you see mind. So I just wanted to show you that this is literally how that word translates. When you see hearts, it literally means mind.
So I don't know, it's just making me think well, since most babies can't speak, you see what I'm saying? This verse says, if you declare with your mouth, I don't know why I can't speak right now. I just feel I don't know. I got some tea right here. Maybe if I sip the tea, this might get me back in the swing of things. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I'm feeling ready now. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, as Romans 10 and 9, as Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10 say, if you declare with your mouth, so a baby can't speak. Then it also says, if you believe in your heart, and then it continues on and it says, for it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. So what I think of is, can a baby do any of those things? And logically speaking, the answer is no. When it comes to believing in your faith, to me, that requires a level of consciousness that I just don't think babies have, or, they haven't developed that. I mean, and again, I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong to do it now. Let me make this very clear, first, in case someone gets offended. You know how sensitive and emotional everybody is these days. So before you get offended and leave me a long, crazy comment or whatever, or you get defensive, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just wondering, hey, is this necessary? Because as I said, this channel, Hearts of Mind, it's about our thoughts. I'm interested in what we think on these subjects. And then I'm giving my opinion or interpretation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I can't be wrong. I will gladly accept that. You know what I mean? Gladly. Like I'm trying to learn. I have a genuine desire to learn. One verse that comes to mind is in Matthew 7, Matthew chapter 7, verses 17, where it talks about, good trees produce good fruit and bad trees produce bad fruit. So I believe if you're already a believer and you yourself, excuse me, but if you're already a believer and you yourself, you've been baptized, the whole nine, and then you and your spouse have a baby, I believe by default, the baby's protected because you yourself, you're a good tree. You see what I'm saying? You're a good tree. So you're already in Christ. You're already in the kingdom. So you're going to produce good fruit. So I have a verse that I want to share with you, if that's okay, in regards to this subject. Like, it doesn't fully get specific on this subject, but I think it speaks enough on it to where you can kind of get the point in regards to this. It is First Corinthians chapter 7 verse 14. So here's what it says. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 14. So right here it's saying the children are holy when there is one believer and one non-believer that have come together. Whether it's a believing husband and a non-believing wife, or a believing wife and a non-believing husband, whatever it is, the children still come out holy. So, and that's in the Bible. So I think this provides a little bit of context as to, and support my opinion and my thoughts on why I kind of think baptizing a baby is unnecessary. Christening a baby, I don't necessarily believe is necessary. Now, once they get to a certain age, right, and they're at an age where they are consciously aware of, proper reasoning and logic and so on, then, they can get baptized, because now they understand exactly what it really means. But I think before it gets to that point, a parent has to, spend time with their child, teaching them, instructing them in the ways of the Lord, as it says in the Bible also. It says it in, I believe it's Colossians. Either Colossians or Ephesians. Is it Colossians? It's probably Ephesians. Yeah, it's Ephesians, my bad. I got them mixed up. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, it says, Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Now, once they hit a certain age, you know what I mean? Then it's like, okay, like how Jews, I could be wrong, but I believe like in the Jewish faith, like when you're like 12 or 13, you're considered like an adult. And, even in the Latin community, they had the quince. Wait, quince is... Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 15. But anyways, my bad. I had to go through my numbers to decide. I have forgot what King say was, but I can only do it if I count up into it. I couldn't just think of it in that. Anyways, um, that's 15. Yeah, so in a lot of cultures, you know, a child is kind of considered more of an adult and, you know, at least somewhat conscious, reasonably conscious and reasonably aware when they start hitting their teenage years, 13, 14, you know, around that time. So around that time, if they get baptized, then, you know, I think that's more relevant because they're a lot older. But I don't know. For me, I just think, you know, a little kid, you're 5 years old, you're 6 years old. Again, thinking about the verse, Romans, I have it pulled up here, Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. If you declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. So, to me, I would have to ask, what age is a person able to do this verse, Romans 10, chapter 9? What age is a child? And I'm sure it varies, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure it'll vary for different people. But what age, you know, is a child able to, it's a twofold thing. They have to declare with their mouth and actually believe in their heart. As in believe in their mind, in their, you know, your heart is your mind. Believe that God did raise Jesus Christ from the dead, and they believe, you know, the whole thing. At what age is someone conscious enough to really do that and understand that? Because I think that's the determining factor for when that person should consider getting baptized. I would just say, I'm not putting a certain age on it. I'm setting the age, in my opinion, at, you know, when a person is old enough to both declare that Jesus is Lord and really internalize that and understand that in their minds, what that means, and that what they're, you know, that they're signing up for a lifetime commitment, just like getting married, all these things. I mean, I'm not married yet. I don't have any kids, anything like that. When it does happen, you know, it's a lifetime thing. And I think in this generation, in this time, like a lot of, you know, as a society, we have diluted that. You know, these are God ordained and God sanctified institutes, so to say. A marriage, a union, that it's a lifelong thing. It's not oh, we grew apart. That's nonsense, to be honest with you. That's complete nonsense. That's not biblical. Growing apart is not biblical. You have made a commitment and you've made an agreement before God, an oath and a vow before God. You know what I mean? There's no growing apart from that. But that's a whole other subject. I'm going to do a video on that too. That's a whole other subject. But the point I'm getting at is mainly becoming a follower of Christ, a kingdom citizen, is a lifetime commitment. You know, there is no growing out of it. There is no, I changed my mind. You know, I mean, you can try to do that. I don't know how well that'll work out, but it's definitely a lifetime commitment. And anything that's a lifetime commitment, I definitely believe it does require serious thought, serious consideration, serious reflection. And for me, I question how introspective can a child really be to understand that. That's the only reason why I bring this up. This was just my take. And I'm saying this too because I was in church a few months back, and my preacher also, he preached a very interesting sermon, and he preached on this very subject of babies and little kids getting baptized. You know, he made a lot of sense, Now, are there some very mature kids that are like prophets or whatever you want to call them at very, very young ages? I won't put anything past God and say what God can or cannot do or won't do. You know, God has the power to make anyone into anything that he wants at any given age. So I won't challenge that. It's just, it's not super common though. I will say that. It's not super common that every kid that, every little kid is just super knowledgeable and they're just, no, they're little kids. They have to be taught. And, going into what my preacher was speaking on is a lot of us, myself included, I got baptized like, I believe I was like 8 years old or something like that, 9 years old, somewhere around there. I was somewhere in that range. I want to say I was like 8, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was like 8. And some of you may say, hey, well, when I got baptized around that same age and I knew what I was doing and this and that. But for me, what I'm going to say is the whole reason why I'm speaking on this is like at 8 or 9 years old, do you really know what it means to believe in Jesus? And again, I'm not saying that there aren't some out there that don't, there are some very mature little kids that do know. But I'm speaking for myself, and maybe there's someone out there that can relate to me and identify, and maybe this might move them to do what I did. Because after hearing that sermon, he was talking about this. Hey, you got little kids getting baptized. These kids don't know what it means to believe in Jesus and to follow Jesus. The average kid don't really know what that means to a point of like having it fully internalized, like the life that they're required to live, right? Now, some may know, and I believe this is where parents come in, because it does fall on the parents to instruct their children in the Lord. That is very important. But I feel like there's still a level of that child not fully necessarily understanding what that really entails. So, me, I got baptized young, 8 years old, I believe. And so what I did, the adult version of me now that I'm an adult and I have a lot more understanding than I did as a little kid, I got baptized as an adult. Me, I'm just giving you my testimony and my journey into this adult baptism, and I'm saying this to invite some of you who may be able to relate to me. Like if you got baptized at like 6 years old, let's be honest, like you probably ain't fully know what that was, and just like and maybe you did. So I know there's some super saints out there, you know what I mean? Super saints, super and super holy, and I'm not knocking them. I'm not. I'm only speaking for myself, and maybe you can relate. But, I'm going to call on you, if this message does apply to you, if you were one of those young people, really young, still a child, and you got baptized, and now you're an adult, and you have a way better understanding of what it means to follow Christ, what that actually entails, and that you can actually really believe it in your heart, as Romans 9 and chapter 10 verses 9 and 10 says, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. I'm going to call on you guys who are adults now, consider getting baptized and consider really committing the adult version of you that has an adult understanding of Christ. Consider committing that version of you to Christ by getting baptized and just going for the full thing. Now, if you got baptized like as a teenager, as an adult, now that, I think that's of age where you understand more and you kind of know what you know what's going on. So I wouldn't think it's necessary for someone that falls under those categories. But I'm talking about if you got baptized as like a kid, like you got baptized like in elementary school. You know what I mean? Like a second grader, the average second grader or third grader, you know what I mean? the average elementary school student doesn't fully, may not, I won't say doesn't, I'll say may not fully understand what they're doing. You know, they're doing it out of tradition. They're doing it out of the parents telling them to do it, or the parents making them do it. And especially if it's a baby, if you're baptizing like a baby, an infant, that baby don't know anything. You know what I mean? That baby did not declare with their mouth and did not believe in their heart, according to, as it says in Romans 10, verses 9 and 10. There was no way. They're an infant. They can't even speak. So for any of you that may have been baptized as newborn babies or, you know, infants, I would like to present to you the opportunity and just recommend. I'm not here to force anybody. We're not supposed to force I'm not here to force you to do anything. I just want to maybe plant a seed, give you something to think about. Hey, consider getting baptized as an adult. If you truly feel like you believe in Christ and you're ready to really commit, and you've been having these feelings of this and that, and you can feel it in your spirit. Some of you may feel in your spirit like something's missing, or you know there's something you're supposed to do, or hey, maybe it's this. Maybe this is, the Holy Spirit leading me to take this action, to put this video together to reach you so that you can go take action, and you go and recommit yourself as this adult that understands. Recommit yourself to Christ as an adult now. But I'll leave you with that. It's your boy Yakliel, Hearts of Minds. Remember, what's on your mind is what's of your heart. They're the same.